Once upon a time in a bustling American city, there lived a wealthy and influential millionaire named Charles Davenport. He was a man who held his head high, always walking with a smug air of superiority. His family was well known for throwing lavish parties, inviting high society guests, business partners, and anyone who could strengthen their name. But Charles also had a son, Andrew, a young man in his late 20s who was expected to uphold the family's reputation by marrying into wealth and status. Andrew, however, was different. He believed in love, not just alliances or convenience, though he rarely dared to defy his father openly. In the Davenport mansion worked a maid named Lila. She was a young black woman who had taken up the job to support her family. Her mother was ill and her younger siblings depended on her. Lila was diligent, quiet, and humble, often moving in the background, unnoticed by the grand guests of the household. But what nobody knew was that Lila carried a secret. Before life's hardships struck her family, she had been a competitive ballroom dancer. She was once crowned champion in regional competitions, twirling gracefully under chandeliers, earning applause from audiences who adored her talent. Life, however, forced her to step away from the dance floor and into the shadows of servitude. One evening, Charles decided to host an extravagant masquerade ball at his mansion. The ballroom glowed with crystal chandeliers, the air filled with the rich aroma of champagne and exotic delicacies. The floor was polished until it gleamed, and a live orchestra tuned their instruments. The event was meant to display the grandeur of his family, but also to find Andrew a suitable bride. Charles had secretly invited several wealthy families, with daughters groomed for the spotlight. As the music swelled, Charles, with his usual arrogance, called everyone's attention. He raised his glass and announced, "Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we celebrate not just wealth and beauty, but the grace of tradition. My son Andrew is yet to find his partner in life, and what better way to see who is worthy than a dance?" The crowd clapped, the ladies giggled, and Andrew shifted uncomfortably, feeling trapped in the spectacle his father had created. Charles smirked, his eyes sweeping across the room. That was when he noticed Lila standing at the edge, holding a tray of drinks, quietly serving guests. He chuckled mockingly and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Even the maid could try, though I doubt she knows the first step of a waltz. If she can manage to dance it, perhaps she'll marry my son." The guests laughed uproariously at his cruel joke, the sound echoing like cruel bells across the ballroom. Lila froze, her heart racing. She felt every eye in the room burning into her, some filled with mockery, others with pity. She wanted to disappear, but Andrew's gaze locked onto hers. He saw the humiliation in her eyes and his fists clenched. "Father, that's enough," Andrew protested, but Charles only waved him off. "It's just harmless fun." Lila, however, steadied herself. She placed the tray down and looked directly at Charles, her voice calm but firm. "If you wish me to dance, sir, then I will." The guests gasped, surprised at her courage. The orchestra fell silent for a moment, waiting. Charles smirked, clearly convinced she would embarrass herself. "Very well," he sneered. "Play the waltz." The violins began to sing and the room held its breath. Lila stepped onto the floor, her plain maid's uniform fluttering slightly as she moved. At first, people expected her to stumble, to falter in shame. But the moment she took her first step, something extraordinary happened. Her posture straightened, her body glided with effortless grace, and her movements synchronized perfectly with the rhythm of the waltz. Every spin, every turn, every rise and fall of her steps were executed with breathtaking precision. Gasps filled the room. The laughter died instantly, replaced with awe. It was as if the chandeliers above bent down to spotlight her, as though the ballroom had been waiting for her to claim it. She moved with elegance born of years of discipline, every motion telling a story of resilience and hidden talent. Andrew, unable to resist, stepped forward. He bowed to her and joined the dance. Their chemistry was instant, their movements blending seamlessly like two souls that had danced together for lifetimes. The crowd erupted in astonished murmurs. The wealthy young ladies who moments ago were ready to compete for Andrew's hand, stood frozen, unable to match the radiance before them. Charles's smirk disappeared. His face tightened with disbelief and frustration. His plan to mock Lila had backfired spectacularly. Instead of humiliation, she had captured everyone's admiration. The waltz ended with a graceful dip, Andrew holding Lila firmly as the orchestra's final note lingered in the air. The room erupted in thunderous applause. Guests stood to their feet, clapping, cheering, some even shouting her name though they had only just learned it. Andrew looked at Lila with admiration and whispered, "You're incredible." Lila, still catching her breath, gave a small smile. "It's just a dance." But he shook his head. "No, it's more than that. You showed them who you truly are." Charles, however, was fuming. "This is absurd," he barked. "She is a maid, nothing more." But one of his influential guests stepped forward, a wealthy woman known for her sharp eye for talent. "On the contrary, Charles," she said coolly, "that was the finest waltz I've seen in years. If she were on a competition floor, she would have taken the trophy without contest." Others nodded in agreement, murmuring about her extraordinary skill. For the first time in a long while, Charles felt the weight of the room turn against him. His mockery had made him look small, and Lila's courage had elevated her in everyone's eyes. After the party ended, Andrew found Lila in the servants' quarters. She was packing up, shaken by the night's events, afraid she might lose her job. But Andrew stopped her. "Don't go," he pleaded. "You don't deserve to feel ashamed for who you are. You're stronger than anyone in that ballroom tonight." Tears welled in her eyes, but she quickly blinked them away. "I'm just a maid, Andrew. Your father will never allow this." Andrew took her hand gently. "Then I'll fight for you. Because what I saw tonight wasn't just dance. It was courage, it was beauty, it was truth. And I don't want a life without that." Word of the ball spread across the city in the following days. Newspapers reported not only the grandeur of the Davenport event but the unforgettable performance of the maid who outshone every guest. The story became a sensation, and soon Lila was invited to perform at local competitions again. Her name resurfaced in the world she once belonged to, and doors began to open. Though Charles fought bitterly against the idea, Andrew stood his ground. He refused to marry anyone else, making it clear he chose Lila. In time, even Charles had to relent, realizing he could not dictate his son's heart. Months later, at another grand ball, but this time as an honored guest, not a servant, Lila danced once more with Andrew by her side. But this time she wasn't just a maid mocked by a millionaire. She was a woman who had reclaimed her dreams, her dignity, and the love she deserved. And as the orchestra played, the world saw her not as a servant but as a champion who turned humiliation into triumph.